Yes.
Okay, go ahead, Rob.
You guys, congratulations being here.
Thank
When
you.
you guys watch today's game, what impresses you and what sort of amazes you, for good or bad?
Joe, tell
What's so good about the game now?
him.
I like to see good defense, and when they on their game defensively, everybody's sliding and coordinating the defense, they're really good. But when they let somebody slide through for the whole game, they're not that good. And that's where it goes, as far as winning. Got to play that defense.
Before the big fella comments and has something really significant to say, I'm going to make my comment. It relates to today they think they need to go to the hoop, take it to the rack, or shoot the three. They forget the mid-range game is very effective, and those who use it are usually getting much better shots, and hopefully we will see more of that for this team here that's coming back from having shown that they could be great.
For any of you guys down here in the front, you've obviously gotten this program as high as it's ever been. What do you think are the realistic expectations? What should this program look like on a year-by-year basis?
Well, I think the hope for any Ohio State team is to win the national championship. Obviously that hadn't happened in a while, but I think that has to be the hope. I know that Coach Holtzman would like that to happen. I know all the players would like to have that happen. I mean, this is a talented team. I mean, they have some good players, and they've done some great things. They've been a little iffy at times, but they have talent, especially defensively. I mean, when they clam guys down defensively, I mean, they play well, and they do well, and we're expecting that tonight.
The other side of this current team is that there are a lot of great shooters on this team. And when they continue to work on figuring out how to make sure that those shooters get shots that they want, they will be very effective, very effective. But more than anything, when you see them play well with good chemistry is something that you can't buy it. It has to be between those young men, in this case now having so much to play for, to hopefully have as a future. But when they can put that aside and just make sure they make the passes, those things that make guys feel great about being on that team with you, it makes a world of difference in how effective they can be.
And that was a great asset for this group. I mean, we were friends, we were close. We played the game the way it should be played. There was no selfishness on our team. Everybody likes to shoot. Mel, more people. I mean, we worked so well together, and there was no selfishness on our team. And it was just fun to be associated with them. We've been friends for more than 60 years, and I'm sure we'll continue to be friends until they shut the lid on us.
Question I have, obviously, one guy who we all wish was here and passed away last April is John Havlicek. And just what did he mean to each one of you individually and to this team indeed? What was his legacy? I know you could talk for hours about it, but just in your mind, just your thought about what he meant.
John was a consummate team player. He never cried, you never heard him say anything, but he played, he had abundance of energy. And when, you might have read the story, when he was growing up, he didn't have a bicycle because he lived too close to the freeway. And his parents didn't want him riding a bicycle because he would get injured. But his friends had bicycles, so he would run while his friends rode the bikes. And that's why he developed his endurance. And we used to work out in St. John's Arena in the summertime. He would come from Canada fishing for a whole month, and he would outrun all of us. Never worked out, basketball-wise, but he just had that energy to add endurance. And I told him one day, I said, John, when you retire, I'm gonna become a surgeon. I'm gonna cut your heart out, because I think you got a motor in there. You're not real. So that's kind of energy he had.
Dick?
I think one of the things that our team had that any team, including the people playing for Chris, will be to be good friends and get along well. We've had a ball yesterday and today. The stories that we've retold, are kind of unbelievable. But I think that's one of the most important things that we had as a team, and any team coming along needs to have that.
For Mel and Jerry, when you guys played freshmen and weren't allowed to play, I was wondering, why do you think freshmen should or should not be allowed to play?
Well, of course, the rules have changed at various times throughout collegiate history. You know, as you said, we weren't allowed to play as freshmen. We could just play the JV team before home games only. We weren't allowed to travel. We weren't allowed to play any other team, just our JVs. And of course, we practiced against varsity all the time and played against them. But that was the rule then. Obviously, the rule is different now. And, you know, obviously, we all know that the better players play only 1 year and they're gone. There are rumors now that might be eliminated totally, and the players might once again be able to, you know, come out of high school and go directly into the NBA. You know, things are so different today. I mean, you know, Joe and I were talking today. If we came out today, in a few years, you know, some of us might be making $40 million a year. When I came into the NBA, I made $30,000 a year, and that was a really good salary. I was, you know, #1 draft choice, and that was big money in those days. And so, you know, everything's changed. It's totally different. The rules change, you know, various times throughout history, and you know, there may be another one on the horizon that'll change everything. I wish there was a rule that kept players in school for at least 3 years. You know, that's the way it is in baseball. I think baseball has that rule, football has that rule, right? And so I wish basketball had the same rule, but it's never going to change, I'm sure. If anything, they'll be allowed to leave from high school because of the circumstances and what's happened in the past.
But I think that's the worst thing that could happen to a kid. He's not physically mature. As Charles Barkley would say, it's a grown man's league. And you take a kid 16, 17 coming out of high school, he's not ready for the physicality of the NBA, nor mentally is he ready. And you're gonna find a lot of these guys, one and done, in 3 years they'll be done with their careers. They won't have no education, no money, and they just out there because they haven't prepared themselves for the future. Because basketball at most gonna last 10 years. But these guys, one and done, 3 years, they're gonna be looking for something to do and they're gonna be disappointed.
Let me make a comment relative to the freshmen playing so early. Is I think we've had the opportunity as observers, and then the coaches get the benefit of those who are mature enough, and some are and some aren't. And I think we've had that take place this year to show just how difficult it is to make this transition. And yet the stakes are so high now. So I think as far as coaches playing freshmen, they need to be able to handle them in a way that recognizes they're freshmen. And they need to treat them off the court as well as on the court that helps their growth take place, because it is a transition. There is no question. High school to playing at this level. So I think the perfect example we all are dealing with now is this young man, DJ Carton, who's an extremely good talent. I'm so happy that he's taking this time to make sure that he feels better about himself and what his future is going to be. And so I think the transition is so difficult that coaches have to be extremely capable and make sure the people that communicate with these young people are good at it so that they don't harm them while they're going through such a difficult adjustment.
If all four of you would mind answering this, because it's a kind of question that your personal stories will be different. 60 years now removed from it, what effect on your life did it have that you were a national champion? Either in how you viewed the world, knowing you had that you would achieve that, or how people viewed you. Just not a lot of people do what you guys did. What did it mean for your life?
I think, yeah, answering your question maybe a little sideways, this group of guys is probably the closest group of friends that I have from that day, and it was because of what we did together as a team and almost as a family. We still, for this week, we have two of the spouses of our deceased teammates here with us. and they've always been invited, and I think it'll always be that way as long as we're able to continue walking. So, Joe?
I tell you, winning is not something that you brag about. It just gives you a positive feeling. Anything you try to accomplish, you know you can do it. You know, I mean, I wouldn't want to be a mathematician because I don't know math. But in my area, you know, I just feel like I can do anything that anybody else can do in my area. It gives you that inwardly positive approach that, you know, to life and knowing that you can make it.
But it's also the realization that you've done something that very, very, very few people in life get the opportunity to do. Winning a national championship is unique. It puts you in a very elite group of people. And this was an elite group of people before we ever won the national championship. We were all from Ohio except one. Many of us knew each other coming into school, had played against each other. And it was just a unique situation. And for the rest of our lives, from that point, we could all say that we played on a national championship team, which, as I said, so few people can do. And you know, you hear all the cliches, it's a feather in your cap, it's that, it's this and that. But more than anything else, as Dick alluded to, we had relationships that were more unique perhaps than in winning a national championship. And as Dick has said, it's continued to this day. You know, I text every one of these guys every week, and I talk to some of them every week. It's important to me to stay in touch with them because we had such a unique and distinct relationship that most teams don't have, and I think that's one of the big reasons we were successful. We were talking in the last 2 days. One of the great things about this team is there was no selfishness among the players on this team. We realized our purpose, we worked hard to attain it, and we accomplished something unique and that very few people have the opportunity to. And we can always say, which I doubt that any of you sitting out there can say, we were on a national collegiate basketball championship. And it's a wonderful feeling, it continues throughout the rest of your life.
You know,
Joe,
Luke was the,
Joe,
I'm sorry,
hold a second.
go ahead.
I want to
Go ahead,
indicate
go
this
ahead, go ahead.
before you go further, because I like hearing what he has to say also. But I want to indicate this. After having gone through high school in a very successful high school, and then had a great senior year, I had achieved a number of things that I felt really good about, that any individual should feel good about. But when we got here, and I say we because we joined each other before we even chose a college. We joined each other and played together. But when we won that national championship, as we approached it and got to it, I kept not looking ahead, but simply saying we had a job to do at that time. But when we actually reached the point where the clock was running down, and we realized we were ahead, obviously, but I wasn't even able to feel it until that clock made its last tick. I felt for the first time in my life, and the only time, athletically, what elation felt like. I felt so good, and when I saw the films, I saw myself run around and do things that looked like a little kid, like a little 3-year-old running around, jumping and having a great time. Well, that's part of what I experienced. Is something that I never experienced prior to or again athletically, and I had a lot of success athletically even after that. So it's a feeling, like you've heard someone say, it's something you carry within you, and that has lasted in terms of what I feel about what we accomplished. It was simply the best that you can feel.
You know, with Luke was LeBron James of you guys' time. I don't know whether you realize or not because you're too young. He had all the publicity LeBron's had coming out of high school, and he could back it up. I mean, he really, so had he been a selfish player, or if you work for a corporation and the manager don't get along with everybody, you're not going to be successful. So everything hinged on Luke and his personality as a team player. He didn't care whether he got 30 or 10. You know, he never cried. He was just a consummate team player. So everybody had to fall in line. But if you work for a company and your boss is off kilter, see what happens. You're not going to be successful because people are not going to work for them, you know. So with Luke, everybody fell in line and said, hey, let's go get him. Now, he didn't say anything because he was scared, you know. As a sophomore, they would beat the hell out of him, you know. And the guys, I had gone through that. I never want to be a leading scorer because a leading scorer, you're going to get tapped. You know, so I didn't have the temperament for a guy hitting on me because I was going to hit back. And so Luke, you know, he took it. So I used to tell him, Luke, you can't let him do that. He said, what? You got to hit him. You got to knock him down. You know, because guys be beating on him, look just like this. I was a sophomore, you know. I said, man, the Big Ten is rough. You can't let him treat you like that.
But he would burn them. He'd burn them by that. I mean, he'd score on them even more. He wouldn't join them and be in a position where he could get penalized for doing something, fighting back. But he would burn them.
But I would tell him,
like that.
You keep let him hit you like this, you're gonna be dead.
I never died.
He's tougher than you thought.
Hey, I was beat up more than that at Sunset Park in Middletown, Ohio. Let me tell you.
You gentlemen have referred to the changes in basketball over the years, and I know in your era the NIT may have been a bigger deal than the NCAA with some schools. I wonder if, given your preference to play in an era, would you prefer to play in the era you played, or would you prefer to play in the era now? Do you think basketball's better now, or was basketball better, purer then?
Let me make the initial comment on that, if I could. You know, the era that we played in, you have to remember, we played in an era where you had players that are part of that 50 greatest players. So that was part of our era. And people always ask you, how do you think you would deal with playing against, et cetera, meaning the later teams. But really, you never are in that position. The ones that are out here playing today are simply playing against their peers, the best that are out there. We did the same thing. We competed against the best that were out there, and when you excel, as we were fortunate enough to do, then you that's your answer. That's your answer.
The game has changed, there's no doubt about that. 3-point line has changed the game more than anything. You know, I was at a an opening of some new dorms. That Darrell Imhoff was the head of marketing for a basketball camp in Oregon. And John Wooden and Pete Newell, and some of you will know the names and some of you won't. John Wooden, of course, is considered the greatest college coach ever, and Pete Newell was an incredible coach. Won a national championship. I played for him in the Olympics. And they were naming 2 dorms after Mr. Wooden and Mr. Newell, and they had a question and answer period with about 300 young coaches. And one coach said, what's the rule change that has made the biggest difference in basketball? Mr. Wooden said, I'd like to answer that first. He said it's the elimination of the jump ball after every made shot. Now you should have seen the reaction from those 300 young coaches out there. What in the world is that old man talking about, you know? And Mr. Newell said, I agree with you, Coach, but he said, I think the second thing that's changed the game most was the origination of the center court line. It never used to be out there. You could dribble at any place and go any place. So the 3-point line has changed the game dramatically too. I mean, it's a different line, but it's changed the game. Everything's moved away from the game. When we played, things were inside. In the NBA, for instance, everything was inside. Wilt, Russell, all the big guys, you know. And I was the first big man to ever move away in the NBA. When I played center for the New York Knicks, first time I played center there, and of course when I'd move away, those guys were dumbfounded. I mean, they had never seen a player move away from the basket. They didn't know what to do. I mean, they really didn't know what to do. And of course now, all the big guys go out there. I mean, that's the game today. So it's changed. It's changed dramatically. And you don't have the gives and goes, the inside game like you used to have in the past. So it's a different game, you know. But each era is a different era. I mean, it's a great game still today, but it's different than it was before.
Speaking of changes, I like the era that I played in because I was thinking. You know, now coaches, they don't think. They ran the same. Everybody run the same stuff. But when I played, you better be on your P's and Q's because if a guy couldn't play defense, they would keep running plays at his man. Just keep running plays and make him play, you know, would wear him out. But now they let a guy like that stay on the court. And in my era, they wouldn't let you stay on the court because they would take advantage of you, and the coach couldn't afford to keep you out there. And I like the physicality of the game, you know, like it was real physical, you know. But now everybody just go where they want to go, you know. But now at that time, the guy going moving, you just nudge him just a little bit. And that separates the men from the boys as whether they could take it or not.
Yeah, there was a separation real quickly in the NBA.
Yeah.
I know, Wilt used to tell all the rookies, he'd say, hey, Rook, he said, if I get an offensive rebound, you better run. He said, if you don't, I'll break your arm. And he would have, you know. So the game before was really a lot rougher and tougher than people realize. And you didn't see so much of it in the past because there was not that much television. But today, everything is seen and replayed and replayed. Man, that's tough. Man, that's rough. Joe played, Mel played. You know, we all played in the NBA. So it was, you know, it's always been a tough game. It's always been a rough game.
It seems apt to me, but I wonder what your reaction would be to the LeBron James comparison that Joe made.
To me,
Yeah.
I don't compare myself to LeBron. I think LeBron's a great player. LeBron is obviously one of the greatest players that ever lived. And the thing that I like most about LeBron is he's a consummate team player, as we were. I think that's the most important thing, you know, that a basketball player, you know, ought to be. He's part of a group, and he ought to complement that group and play with that group. LeBron really looks to pass first and shoot second. I mean, he has incredible skill, incredible ability. And I've always been a fan of LeBron's and always will be, because I love the style he plays and what he's done. And I mean, his record speaks for itself. I mean, he's going to break so many records before he's finished that it's going to be incredible.
Did you ask the question, compare him with LeBron?
You called him LeBron in his day.
I mean, just publicity-wise.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, just not an ability, because they're two different guys. Two different players. LeBron couldn't rebound with them, you know, but he can't keep up with LeBron with the ball, you know. It's just one of those things. And LeBron, what I like about him is that he, like he said, a team player. He gets you involved, but he has the ball a lot, which a lot of players don't like. But he gonna get you the ball if you can play. The only thing that I don't being a former coach is that he never had good coaching. He never had any coaching. His coaches that he had, he would have more championships than Michael Jordan if he had good coaches. Because they didn't have, he always had a rookie coach and they knew nothing about defense. Nothing. But he carried those coaches and players to a championship, what, 3 or 4 years before he won one? That's when he came into Cleveland, didn't he take him all the way to the finals that year?
Right early on.
Yeah.
Early.
Just a high school guy. Strong as hell. He's strong.
You've all spoken about your bond and the, you know, how close you guys remain after all the years. Just wonder what it felt like for all of you to see Bob Knight go back to Indiana after so long and have that sort of emotional reunion with that program. What was it like for you guys to see that?
I was glad to see. Go ahead, Dan.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was happy to see it. We need to understand, though, that that was not a university event. Yeah, he did that because his former players wanted him to. And I think we have to see what's going to happen from now on. And I don't think any of us know for sure what's going to happen there. I'm not sure Bob does even.
And with Bob, the guys who could take it, they love him.
Yeah.
He took care of his guys. I mean, the guys, all his guys are successful, you know, in the world. Some of them in real estate. One of the guys owned 500 units in Bloomington. Can you imagine a realtor? I mean, owning 500 on campus is big. I mean, these are his guys. They're successful.
You guys have mentioned how much the game has changed, but what stays the same from head coaching with Fred Taylor and Chris Holtman? How does that remain important still today as it was back in 1960?
Joe, you're a coach.
What was the question?
Coaching, the importance of coaching, how has it stayed the same despite the year with Chris Holtman and your guys' head coach, Fred Taylor? A lot of things have changed since then, but how much does coaching still remain the underlying importance of the game?
You know, with coaching, it's a matter of fundamentals. They never change. If a coach is fundamentally sound and get his players to buy into it, they're like off a two-man play. You see it in the NBA, nobody's up and taking a man. Nobody. But this coach, when they on their game and stop that guy from driving, they're tough. So if you fundamentally sound and get your players to buy into it, you can win in any era. It's just like blocking and tackling in football. If you don't block and tackle, you're not going to win.
You know, when I first came here, I never blocked out. Waste of time. Because I knew where every ball was going. I spent years of my life analyzing shots, knowing where they were going, how and why, and I knew where every ball was going. So I came here, you know, every coach historically has their players block out every day in practice, right, Joe? Every day in practice. They're blocking out, blocking out, blocking out. To me, that's a waste of time. So I went to Coach Taylor one day and I said, Coach, I'd like to talk to you. He said, okay. I told him how, why, what I did, and so forth. I said, I'm never gonna block out. And he said, I'll practice blocking out in every practice. And I said, when that game starts, you're never gonna see me block out unless I'm directly on the basket. Because you can't be a great rebounder if you're flat-footed and putting your weight back. You gotta go after the ball. You gotta know, and if you know where it's going, you can go get it. And one of the biggest strengths that I had to help this team get started was getting that ball turning and throwing it out, you know, before I hit the ground, which I practiced every day of my life when I was growing up. So, you know, Fred, even though he practiced, had everybody block out every day, he said to me, do it. He said, if you can do it, get us out of here and let's get going. So, I mean, coaches need to adjust to players' abilities and, you know, the talents that they have. Any good coach needs to do that, no matter whether it's 1960 or 2020. And, you know, Chris is a great coach. Our coach is a great coach. And so, you know, I mean, coaches, especially at this level, you know, they're very important obviously. Coaches are important at every level. And, you know, so anyway, that's.
But you know, what Woody Hayes was saying, you need talent. Good players make good coaches. And if you don't have the talent, you're not gonna win.
Okay, we'll take one more back here.
Jerry, do you ever dream about how many points your teams would have averaged? I know you guys scored gobs of points all 3 years that you guys played, but if you had the 3-point shot and the clock pushing play a little quicker, how many points would you guys have averaged?
I'll answer that. I've had a conversation with Coach Knight. We used to go on some golf trips, and I said to him, Bobby, how many points do you think we would have had if we had a shot clock then? He said, Dick, it would have made no difference. We never held the ball that long anyway. So,
but other teams did.
Huh?
Our opponents did.
Our opponents did, but we played fast. I don't think many people realize how fast of a team we had for the size. So, the 3-point rule may have made some difference, but I don't think the shot clock would have made any difference with our team.
On the offensive end, yeah.
On the offensive end, yeah.
Okay. All right, thanks, gentlemen. We appreciate it.
Okay.